Welcome to Reads with Rosa. Today's guest is a fellow educator, colleague, and a very, very good friend of mine, Erika Egawa. What's up, Erika?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you
Welcome.
so much for having me, Rosa. I'm so excited. I'm feeling really excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
I'm so stoked to have you here. I feel like it's just us. Usually we're in the teachers' room. For those who are listening, Erica sits like two desks away
Yeah.
from me, and I feel like this is just us. Like rolling around on our chairs,
We're,
and I'm
we're,
just
we're scooching. Hey, come over
hey,
here. Yeah, check this out.
whispering.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to stay out of everyone's way. So I am just so happy. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so far it's been good. Just a relaxing morning. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully I can answer some of your questions. Yeah.
You're going to be all good. How are you coping with the pandemic? I mean, I've been asking
Mm,
everyone this question. How are you coping?
yeah.
Not just as a
You
teacher,
know,
but personally.
personally, I think for me, I'm filling my time with a lot of projects. Yeah, like I just this house is in disarray because I've got all sorts of projects going on from sewing to building to painting, which is awful. So I feel in a way, it's made me kind of slow down and just kind of do the things that I enjoy doing. Whereas normally it'd be, going out, getting dinner, all sorts of things, and like people
Crazy
always
things.
coming over. Yeah, well, no, no, I'm past those days. No. So I feel like, overall, I think I'm doing okay. I mean, cool thing is that I still get to see you. I still get to see some friends at work and stuff. So yeah, I think I'm doing all right. How about you? How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm coping all right. I mean, I'm doing some things that are like really therapeutic, as you know, just some projects.
Mm,
So I think that's definitely keeping me busy and keeping me well, at least stopping me from worrying about, commuting to work. I mean, I think that's my biggest issue, like anxiety kind of thing, right?
hmm.
Just commuting on the
Yeah.
train every day and you know, like it's crazy here. Trains are super packed, no matter what time I go in the morning.
It
So
just
it's
feels
just
like normal. Yeah.
I know, it feels like, they said state of emergency, and I thought, yay, the trains are going to like at least be a little bit like emptier. I wouldn't have to take like a 5:15 a.m. train. Nah, I'm like taking like a 6:30 train. Another time I try to take the 6 o'clock train. It doesn't matter. I get on the train and I'm like this,
You're you're
just try
dancing.
not to
No,
breathe. Like,
yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. The the for those of you that aren't familiar with Japan, they have these buses, and right now there's a seat directly behind the driver that has like this sign of like you can't sit there. And I was joking with our friend Amy about like once that sign is off and you can sit behind the driver, then we know it's okay to ride the bus. But as of now,
right.
it's yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you're meant to keep the windows open on the bus, and on the train, but very rarely on the train. Like, I think,
Mm,
yeah, like
it's like a little crack.
it's a
Yeah.
little crack, and yeah, but I mean, aside from that, like I guess, just grateful to still be able to go to work. Like you said,
Mm,
connect with colleagues and friends at work, and just be alive. Just grateful to
yeah.
be alive. Um, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's interesting that you were talking about projects because that leads me to my next question. So during when the pandemic first started, like everyone was like getting into projects, like posting them on their
Yes.
stories. And I'm talking about people, like a lot of people I saw in New Zealand, like people were making bread, baking, and
Yeah.
post like gardening, like DIY, doing all of that. So it
Mhm.
was funny how you mentioned your projects. Um, what quarantine hobby did you attempt to start but have already given up
Already given up? Mm,
or given up on? What have you really given up on?
well, okay. One of one of my projects. So, so I love to sew, and I like doing embroidery. And so I tried to do, I think I showed you, I tried to do this like Mount Fuji embroidery, and it's not going too well. I kind of threw it to the wayside, but yeah, I think that one I could pick it up, but I kind of am feeling a little meh
It's
about it. But
no.
that's one of those of like, I know I should do it so I can show the students because I teach sewing at school too. But
Right.
yeah, I that one I kind of gave up.
It's alright. I mean, I think, a lot of people took things on and just kept, kinda gave up. I mean, I wasn't even trying to make bread. Like, I think at the beginning, I was like, "Yo," I was on that banana bread kinda buzz, and then
Yeah,
after a while, I was like, "Yeah, nah, you need to stop."
yeah.
It's
When
not
when
working.
we when we were working from home for a
Mm,
while, the online learning, I tried to be healthy of like every morning I'm gonna have a smoothie. No, that
yeah.
lasted like 3 days. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's yeah, I'm just glad we can still laugh about it, eh? Because what are some talents that you have that your students have no idea? Like, are you secretly this ballet dancer or hip hop dancer? Like, what are some
Uh,
talents and skills?
some
'Cause I know you
talents.
got some. I know you
Well,
got some.
yeah, mm, I would say one of the things that I don't think I've even told you about this, but I play the piano, and have
Oh,
I told you
okay.
this?
I didn't think so. I didn't what an
uh,
undercover. Like, how dare you keep the
yeah.
secret to yourself? Wow,
Well,
really?
I but I have, I don't know. I have this strange thing where I can't play in front of other people.
Mm.
Like I only like I've grown up taking lessons and learning how to play it, but like I only play when I'm by myself. So I don't think it yeah. Yeah, not many people know about that one. That's a secret
Man,
one. And I don't think
man.
I've even told the students ever. Yeah.
We need to go to the chapel so you can play some music. We gotta
Oof,
go,
oof.
man. Let's go to the chapel, play some music. Oh, we have a chapel at school. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. One one time in elementary, so I used to teach in elementary, they needed someone to help the pianist turn the pages. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I sat next to her and I did it. And then one of the teachers came up to me, was like, Erica, you can play the piano. Can you
Yeah.
perform it? I was like, no, no, I'm not doing
I thought you were
it.
gonna tell me that they asked you to play at mass. I was like, "How dare you not tell me
Oh,
this?"
and yeah, no, they asked that was part of it of like, oh, you should join us when we do our worship in the back. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Thank
Come
you. I'm good.
on, man. These God-given talents that you're hiding, girl. I swear. Um, what are you curious about that has absolutely nothing to do with teaching? What's something you're
Nothing to
curious
do
about?
with
Nothing to do with teaching,
uh,
but you're
just interests
mm,
or like
yeah,
things that I want to learn to do. Anything.
anything.
Well, okay. One thing that I really would love to learn, I I don't know if this is okay. I'd want to learn dancing, specifically pole dancing, because
This is a family-friendly show. Excuse you.
no, no,
We might
no.
have children. I'm just kidding.
Rewind. Just kidding. No,
Let's edit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
no,
Okay,
well,
fitness, right?
because
For
okay,
fitness purposes, yeah.
for fitness, yeah. Because okay, I took one. It was like a $5 class. I took it once, and it was an intense workout. Like I couldn't even like get one foot off the pole. Like it was intense. So I wanna be a better dancer. And just in general, I don't have rhythm. Like I cannot dance. So
I'm
that's
sure
what
the pole will help you. Hold on
Stop it.
tight, sis. Hold on tight.
I should have said that. Oh man, I should have.
Okay. Now this next question, I have to ask this question, and then I
Yeah,
will tell you why once Erica answers the question.
yeah.
What is your favorite curse word?
Oh, that is a great. Can I say it? Am I allowed?
Sure. I mean,
Is this a
you can
family
spell it
family?
out if you need to, or
Yeah. Well, okay. I think I probably the word that I use the most often.
Yeah.
Can I don't know. Should I say it? I don't know.
You can just spell it
I
out
feel.
or
All right, the F word, F
the F
bomb.
word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
No,
so the reason
definitely. Yeah,
go
I
ahead,
see
go
where
ahead.
this is going. No, it's just I definitely that's the most frequently used word
I feel
in this
you.
household. Yeah.
I feel you. You know, it's funny because I was trying to think, oh, what are Erica and I gonna talk about? And I saw this question. I was like, yo, I have to ask. Okay, so for our listeners and viewers, so it's Lent. Currently, it's Lent. There is Easter finishes next week. So for Lent, I mean, Erica knows me very well. I am,
Mm.
yeah, dirty mouth, pretty bad with cursing, pretty bad. Like I have my
No,
moments.
I'm so
Obviously, not in
impressed.
the classroom, but definitely every other time where I'm hanging with Erica, it's like F bomb, F bomb, F bomb, laughing, F bomb, F. Hey, chicka, chicka, chicka. Anyways, so basically for Lent, that was my goal. No cursing. And I'm actually, I think my tally is at 12 now since Lent started. So it's been like 4 and a bit weeks. I've only like, I've only like made a mistake like 12 times. However, however, the majority of
Out of
that
those
time,
12.
the major
Yeah.
out of those 12, I would probably say that 9 times was with
Yeah.
Erica. We're like
Yeah.
laughing or talking or whispering by our desks, and I'm just like, Erica, you're such a bad influence. F bomb, F.
I
Oh
just
my
pull it out of
god.
you.
It just yeah. So I must say, as Erica said, I am very proud of myself. I mean, we've still got a week and
Yeah.
a half to go, but oh man, it's been refreshing. Like I can't even believe it myself. Like every day, like if I have to say something and I'm with Erica, I'm like spelling out the word and missing some letters.
Yeah.
um, so what is a favorite pastime that you have?
Favorite pastime. I guess the one thing that really helps me kind of calm myself or that I enjoy doing the most is probably cooking. I
Yes.
yeah, I that's one of the times like I feel at peace when I'm in the kitchen and just throwing something together. So I that's probably out of all the things, it's the one that I haven't given up on. So yeah.
Just don't start making bread because then you might give up.
Well, I okay, I'll say I'm great at like meals, food.
Yeah.
I am terrible at baking
Mm.
because I can't follow directions. So
don't
yeah.
don't even ask me, man. I don't even get me started. You have
Yeah.
nothing to worry
Next
about.
time
You're all good.
on Monday I'm gonna be like, hey, where's my banana bread? Like, yeah, where's
Okay. So what was an early experience where you learned that language had power? What was an early
ah,
experience that you can think of?
you know, and maybe yeah, so I guess I'll explain to our audience a little bit about my background. So
Mm,
for me, so I grew up in America. My mother is Japanese and my father is just a whole sorts of white. Yeah, um but in my household, because of the community and the school that I grew up in, it was really dominant of English only. My
mm,
and I because I was strictly told that,
mm,
this is America, we speak in English, I came to kind of resent learning Japanese, learning it, or when my mom would try to teach it to me, I really didn't want to be a part of that, because I just wanted to be accepted in my school and in the group of friends. So the only time that I would use Japanese was when I would be communicating with my family. And that would usually be in the summertime, and there's just one memory in particular that sticks out to me where I really felt like, wow, language has so much power. So my grandfather, he didn't speak any English. He only spoke Japanese. But the few words that he knew in English, were results of the U.S. occupation of Japan after World War II. When he was late teen, early 20s, and as you can imagine, war-torn nation, it was really an awful situation. And the words that my grandfather knew were what he said he learned from the officers in the military. And the words that he knew were "God damn," "shut up," and "pick it up, boy." Those were the only phrases that my grandfather knew. So when I was little and I would go to visit, he would jokingly say that
Mm.
to me, to my brother. We'd laugh and like, drop something, yeah, pick it up, boy, and then we'd laugh and joke it. But then when he explained the situation, like it was really awful. It was literally that was what they would like throw food on the ground and then my grandfather would scramble and try to get it. So I felt that I just always remember that as having, wow, like those few phrases are what permeated through my grandfather's mind and what kind of gave his impression. It gave a very negative impression of how he saw Americans, and which then, of course, translated into kind of the family relationships there. But definitely, that was, I would say, probably the earliest memory I have where I thought, like, wow, language does have power to it. And I was probably when he first told me that, maybe I was like 10, and 8, 9,
Mm.
10, somewhere around there. So, yeah. Um, but it's language is an incredible tool that can express, you know. Oh, sorry, there, AC. But yeah, but yeah, no, I think it can express all sorts of emotions. It can express, or it can pull out different experiences. So yeah. Sorry, it got a little serious, but
No, please don't apologize. You are fine. So your mom's Japanese, and I
mhm,
guess like growing up in the US, like were you were you able to celebrate? Like we live in Japan, and they have
mhm,
a lot of celebrations. Like there are special festivals, and there's like
mm,
Children's Day, like there's Hanamatsuri, 357.
mhm.
So there were all these festivals. But in the States, in the US, were you able to like were you in a community that kind of allowed you to participate in such festivities, or like did you and like how was your mom able to kind of like bring Japanese culture into your life? I mean,
Mm.
were there moments where she was, I mean,
Yeah, that's a great question. In the area that I grew up in, I mean, it's demographics, it's predominantly just white Caucasian, and my mom didn't even know that there was a community of, a Japanese community. She knew, a lot of families who are Japanese American, they can send their kids to a Japanese school. They call it Saturday school,
mm,
Hoshuko, but my mom didn't even know that that existed. So
mm,
anything to celebrate the Japanese side was really in the confines of our own home.
mm,
And I think the biggest celebrations that we had were just New Year's when we'd, sit. It was more the family time, have the soba, have osechi, yeah. And then, I think Girls' Day, we'd have a mini celebration in the house, but yeah, that was really all that we were able to celebrate. I mean, looking back again, and this is about my school too, but when we'd have those days of, oh, come dress up or show something off, and I'd be excited, and I just remember I was maybe second grade, and wore my yukata, the summer
mm,
kimono, and I got all dressed up and I went to school, and I just remember one of the girls telling me, "That's not how you wear it." This white girl telling me this,
yeah.
and it was like, no, I do know how to wear it," And so, and then she's like, "No, I know that you need," and she was trying to say to put the right side over left, and I was like, "No, no." That's not
Yeah,
okay.
right.
And in Japanese culture, when you wear the kimono or the yukata, if the right is over left, that's what
Mm,
they do for when they're doing like wakes or for
mm,
when they're dressing people in preparation for funerals. So it's a really a no-no, right?
yeah,
And I just remember being like, okay, well, I can never show this off. So
right.
I think that was like maybe that time, and then my senior year were the only two times, where I even attempted to like show my culture. Yeah.
And what about speaking Japanese? I mean, like, did did mom teach you growing up or your grandparents? Like, where did you learn to speak Japanese? If, obviously thinking
Mm,
about the community in which you were living, and not being able to be immersed in your culture,
mhm,
or another part of your,
mhm.
like the other side of your,
Yeah,
you know, um,
yeah.
identity and stuff. So how did you pick up the language, or was that just when you came back to
Yes.
Japan?
Well, so actually, yeah, so my mom did try to teach me a little bit. One of the things, Japanese families abroad, they can order the national curriculum textbooks.
Yeah.
So my my mom tried to do that, but again, I was just like, no, I don't want to study.
Right.
I want to be American. I only speak
Yeah.
English, right? And then, after I graduated from um, school, and then I went on to university, and I happened to kind of join this group that was a Japanese American kind of social group. And there I met so many different people who grew up in the States but were fluent in Japanese. And then that was when of like, oh, I didn't even know that that was a possibility. And and it kind of then like ignited this, I don't know if it's a rivalry or that competitiveness of like, I need to catch up, I need to learn here. And I'm almost like a little bit embarrassment of like, man, why have I been living my life with just English? Like there's so much, So it was from university that I started taking classes. And I think because I had casual conversations with my mom, with my grandparents, with my family, so I had the pronunciation, I had a lot of the
Right.
basics down. So it I think for me it was a little bit more of an exponential kind of process where I kind of just jumped in head first. But yeah, I'm still learning. Yeah, still trying to figure things out. But yeah, it wasn't until I kind of saw the reality that there's so many other people that can speak and know and learn. So
Mm.
that's when I kind of picked it up. Yeah.
That's awesome. So fast forward, you're back in Japan now. I mean, you're in
Mhm.
Japan and working at an international school.
Mhm.
I mean, in terms of maintaining that language and still, I mean, you're still studying. Are you trying to use it as often as you can, or like,
Mhm. It's funny. We had the parent conferences last Friday, and I had this one family that had asked, "Oh, can we try to do the conference in Japanese?" And I was like, "Okay, whew, I will try
excuse?
this." But yeah, I was like, "Okay," but like I don't know technical words like analyze the text
Right.
or produce right.
NYP
And I was like,
jargon, right?
yeah, all that jargon. So I was like frantically googling while I'm like trying to explain it, and like it was fine. We got the
Yeah.
communication across, but like it did feel though when I afterwards I got a um, the parent mentioned that thank you for trying to do that in Japanese. Like we felt more comfortable trying to do, and and as bad as my communication was, and I felt like awful. It was like, man, I couldn't say what I wanted to say, but I still feel like at the end of the day, they seem to feel more comfortable in
Yeah.
Japanese, and it made me feel like I should learn those terms a bit more so that if it comes up again, I'll be ready to go. But other than that, at school, I would say mostly communicating in English, sometimes with the Japanese teachers when we're
Mm.
gossiping in the corner, But I think I still feel I don't feel like I'm very strong with my
Mm,
Japanese, so sometimes I kind of shy away from it when I know that I should practice it a bit more. And even with my group of friends here in Japan, most of them have some level of English, so I fall back on that. And
yeah.
then in the situations where it's my friends who only speak Japanese, I feel that I'm a bit more shy and I'm holding back when I need to practice it a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if you weren't living in Tokyo, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
true.
if you were living like
True,
in
true,
another
true.
part, maybe you need to go to Inaka, move to the countryside.
Well, I mean, like that. Well, you can tell me about that because you lived in Mia, right?
Yeah.
Way out in the
I mean,
country.
sis,
Yeah,
it was just like when people talk, like I love, you know how much I love Japan, the culture, the people, the
yeah.
oral traditions and stuff. And when I lived in the countryside, man, you're just fully immersed. Like I was like rice fields. I walk out of my apartment, rice fields. When there's like
Awesome.
heavy rain, it's flooding. But the people, the thing about Inaka, like living in countryside Japan, is just the community, like tight knit community, and
Mm,
it's more like a lot of senior citizens. There's like
mm,
different age range just because a lot of that, like once you graduate high school, a lot of them move to the cities and stuff. So but yeah, definitely you're immersed in the language and the culture. I loved it, and
mm.
it's quiet. When I hear colleagues talk about how amazing Tokyo is, but they only know Tokyo, I always say, man, you
Yeah.
need to. Japan is such, man, it's a massive country. People really need to get out of Tokyo and see, and not just the day
Mm,
trips, not just that I'm going on a 1 day trip to
yeah.
Hakone to
Yeah.
get a
Well,
glimpse of Mount
yeah.
Fuji, right? Like really, really go out and just experience
Mm,
true Japan is what I say. Not that living in
mm,
Tokyo is not true Japan, but there is just so much beauty out there. And like in Mia, I lived in Iseshima, which is like the
mm.
national parks region. I mean, like
Yeah.
there's parks, like forests, like rivers. It reminded me so much of
Beautiful.
New Zealand, like just the greenery,
Mm,
the mountains and stuff. But yeah, I would just say to anyone, like every time someone says I'm coming to Japan, I'm like, you need to experience, like take the train and go and check out countryside Japan. I feel like if you don't get to experience that, you never know the true Japan, right? Because there's so much out
I
there,
agree. Yeah, I
you know.
agree. And I think because when you're living in the city, you get caught up in that fast pace and that
Right.
bustle, and I feel like whenever we do those trips where we go out, somewhere camping or just going somewhere we haven't been, I do feel like this just it's quiet. It's
Mm.
calm. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
the other thing about living, like, so, we had autumn break, and then in January I just took like a few days, went on a trip, just went on my own, just spontaneously last minute, and it forces you to speak because like you said, it's so peaceful and calm. And I realized when I was on, like, once you get out into countryside Japan, there are no English speaking people. So you're just hearing
Yeah.
Japanese all around, and then you're like forced and me
Mm,
and my broken Japanese, like I have better like listening skills in Japanese, like I can
mm,
pick up that way. I just don't know how to
yeah.
speak it. But I'm like, oh, like
Respond. Yeah.
you're really forced to just use the language. So that's the upside of it, right? Is like
Mm.
you just gotta get in there. But Japan
Well,
is, yeah, beautiful.
it is. It really is. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, so when you were starting out as a teacher, how did you deal with doubts such as, am I going to be able to care for every student's individual needs? Um, or how did you deal with doubts of, am I just going to fail? Because you're
Mm.
starting off as a new teacher. Like, how did you?
Mm.
I mean, did you have those doubts? How did you deal with that? Like, just because I think we came the same year, right? To our school.
Yeah, we
So
did. We did. Absolutely. I had those doubts and my background, I kind of came into education a little bit later. This is my kind of first school that I've been at. And so it was definitely of like, is this what I'm meant to do. Like I feel like I have an understanding, but I didn't grow up around little kids. And oh, just a little background. I started in elementary education. So I think one of the things that really helped me is the first couple years that I started out, I was the teaching assistant for um and I think I was lucky to have teachers like one of my mentors, Matt. He really showed me how to value the relationships and how to create just the positive classroom, like a safe classroom first before worrying about the content. And I feel like that helped me kind of have this mindset of first care for the kids, make them know that you genuinely do care about them and worry about their well-being. And then and he was always joking like, "Don't worry, the content will come later." So I felt like because I saw that example, and then eventually when I had my own homeroom, I kind of took that with me, and I felt like it was a learning process. It was tough at first of like, how do I handle this whole classroom? How do I make sure I care for everyone? But like I think because I had that knowledge, I knew that at the end of the day, like the kids are care if I have a connection with them. And I think that's what encouraged me. And at first, I really was like, I don't even know how to talk to kids. you know, um, in my family, I have just one niece, and so I only really interacted with her, but I wasn't really around a lot of kids growing up. So I was sort of like, I don't even know like what language. I knew not to swear. Okay, no, no, but
Well done.
yeah, ooh, I got that one. Yeah, yeah. But how do I phrase things so that children can understand it or make sense of it in their own way? I learned like the techniques of how to pose questions that are open so that the kids can then feel like they can respond in the way that they have access to, the language that they know. And I feel it's been a process, and I'm still growing, and I'm still learning absolutely how best to interact with children. But I'm getting more confident as the years are going by. So
I mean, I love it. I definitely can see that. I mean, I know we all started out together and
mm,
like back in 2015, but I have seen just the growth, your growth and development, your confidence as a teacher. And I mean, I think the best thing that happened was when like this year was you moving to middle and high school. Well, middle and high school. So
yeah,
like I have seen you just the beast mode, constant grind for 4 years and then finally for 5 years and then finally, there was an opening and you came up and
mm,
I was so happy for you. I was so proud of you just because I've seen, the challenges that come with being, you know, learning on the job, like, first time teacher, learning on the job, and just to see like your growth and how far you've come. I mean, sis, I say it to you
mm,
all the time. I'm just super proud of you. And like you said, as teachers, we continue to grow. Like we're in
mm,
this job that is, we're lifelong learners. We have to be lifelong learners because
yeah,
we have to, we always need to be checking ourselves, doing self reflection, and really looking, like you said, even if it's down to the questioning. And we need to continue to learn how to build rapport with all types of learners, all different
mm,
students, and considering their different identities that they bring into like our classrooms. Like that is just so
yeah.
crucial, and you're doing a great job. Like
Oh,
seriously, you are
thank
doing
you.
a fantastic job. I tell you all the time. um but I was like, what I wanted to ask was, now that you're in the middle and high school, because in elementary, which I dream about, you had your own classroom, which I kind of do as well. I'm fortunate to
Yeah.
kind of be in one room, but now that you're up here in middle and high school and you're moving from room to room, so
Mm,
what are some useful practices for teachers who
Mm.
share classrooms or float in and out of several rooms? Because I got issues sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
What are some useful practices that you would think you could pass on to
Just
those
some
teachers?
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that I feel just the shared understanding that it's a shared space, like I feel some of the classrooms I walk into, it's like, what is this mess every like I'm tripping over
Yeah,
wires. Yeah.
we're on the
Yeah.
same
So
level. For
I
everyone
know.
listening, me and Erica, we're exactly the same. That mess that we walk into, nah, not cool.
Like I just it bothers me so much when I'm like, I can't why is this what is this random trash in this
Right.
corner? Or like what are these random like come on. So I feel like the first is just like it's common sense, but it's shared space. So clean up after yourselves or to remind the students of like, hey, if we had a day where we got stuff out, let's clean up for the next teacher. Um, but I would say just one of the things, a tip for moving classroom to classroom, I feel when I had my own homeroom, it was great because I could get chart paper and have like a things up on the wall and like, okay, we're gonna use that, pull that down, or refer to here's the timer, things like that. So now it's sort of I'm limited to just kind of the capacity of what I can carry. So I feel a lot of it now is digital, which I think is great. But I'm also, I'm excited for when we can kind of share and move about in groups
Tell
and we
me
can have
about it.
more. Yeah, so I feel like even and to be honest, I haven't done this practice yet because of COVID and everything, but once I can, I look forward to when we can just get like almost like our own homeroom where we keep those charts up. We have it so then you don't have to carry everything with you or make it in a digital format. Just it's in the classroom as a constant reminder. So like and when I talk with the kids on like they also want a room where they see their learning. Like they want to see a reminder or they'll send me an email of like, "Oh, Miss Erica, what was that you said about this or can you share the slideshow?" But if it was already up in their room, they'd be ready to go. So, yeah, and the other thing is just because sharing the room, and this is also our school has access to a lot of technology, but I find that things that can be digital are great because then you don't lose it.
Right.
So, like I just feel like I'm able to keep because I only have my one little desk
Yeah.
to store all my stuff, whereas before I kind of had my whole classroom where I could just organize all my papers, right? So, um, just being critical about what kinds of things are great on paper, what kinds of things that can be done digitally. Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. What are some misconceptions that people have about teachers or teaching?
That it's a daycare. That is and that's actually something that my dad told me. So yeah, that's something. And then once I started teaching, and I told him like, no, this is the reality of my day of everything I need to deal. He's like, oh, I genuinely thought it's just a place to just let my
How
kids
rude.
be. I know. I was like, thanks, Dad. Awesome, cool.
Man, thinking about your middle school students,
Mm,
what did you want to be when you were a middle school student? I mean, were you one of those kids
mm,
like I remember when I was in elementary, like primary school, which is elementary, like I had kids, I want to be a fireman. I want to like
yeah.
they knew. I was just like I didn't know, but for and that was in elementary, but when you think about the students that you're teaching, I mean, are some of them talking about their dreams? Like, did you know at that age what you wanted to be?
I think yeah, there's definitely when I'm thinking of certain students, they have a very strong, clear understanding of what they want to do with their future. For me, I kind of jumped around. I have a lot of interests from astronomy to architecture to archaeology. I love so I didn't really have one kind of thing that I wanted to be, but I knew I think a lot of it centered around mythology. Like I really in kind of studies of ancient civilizations, and so that's why like I first got into like ancient architecture and then mythology and then thinking about, oh, what was the stars like before. So I feel like a lot of it revolved around that. And I I think when I was middle school, high school, I don't think I had a clear understanding, but I definitely felt strongest about wanting to be an archaeologist or wanting to study mythology a bit more. So that was something I felt like I think I knew that I was interested in, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Man. Has it been difficult to get our students motivated, just in terms of learning and, you know, assignments and things, getting that done? Like, has it been difficult, especially
Mm.
during COVID times, or, is everyone just kind of like, let's just soldier on together? Like,
You know, I actually I feel for the most part they're all trying their best and trying to soldier on, and I think the area that's challenging for some of the students is kind of the self-management of getting work turned in by a certain deadline. But I feel that their motivation is there. They want to do the work. They want to, some students maybe are putting a little bit too much stress into it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but I think they are trying to soldier on, and I have been impressed by just how much they're willing to just take on all that's been thrown at them. And for me, I work with middle school students, and which in our school this year we have two grade levels that moved up to middle school. One was previously in elementary. And so I'm working with two grade levels that this is the first time that they have kind of the schedule of, how many classes, all this homework. So I feel like it seems to be on par with just that transition into the middle high school of, getting their organizational skills together, learning to communicate in a professional way with their teachers, we're so and I'm when I think about some students that are maybe having a hard time or finding it challenging to get all their work in, I feel like it's less about their desire to want to do work. It's
Mhm.
more just simply feeling overwhelmed, or the circumstances of having so much, and also maybe the pressure from teachers trying to jam a lot in to make up for some things,
Yeah.
so I kind of feel for the kids that there's a lot of pressure on them. Yeah.
Mm. And so, like, mental health, well-being, um, and just seeing that some of our students, I mean, like you said, most of them are coping, but, we still see, I mean, even grade 11, like in the high school, we still see kids who are really struggling during
Mm,
this pandemic. And I know teachers as well are
mm,
struggling, with well-being and health. How do you look after yourself? Like, what I know you've
mm.
got a lot of interests, but, how do you treat yourself so that, like self-care? How are you looking after
Yeah,
yourself outside of your interests and, you know, outside of school? Because we
yeah. I
need you,
think,
Like,
uh, and yeah, Rosa, you know me well, and I tend to kind of put myself last.
yes,
So
yes.
self-care is definitely a tough topic for me. And one of the things that I've been trying to do this year is once I go home, try not to do work when I go home. Whereas, yeah, in previous years in elementary, you just don't have time in the day to do any of the planning or anything like that. So I mean, pretty much I'd spend several hours at home every night just getting work done. So one of the things I'm trying to do this time around is just to stop, and part of that is also when I get home I need to make dinner, so that kind of forces me to stop and pause. But yeah, I think just the trying to work on that work-life balance. I'm still trying to learn to say no. I can
I
That's
mean,
a yeah.
like, don't beat yourself up, because I hear you. Same thing.
Yeah,
Um, it's not easy.
it's hard, and I feel because I'm kind of getting into education a little bit later than a lot of the colleagues that we have around us,
Mhm.
and like I feel like I need to make up for that, and I feel like the self pressure that I need to prove that I'm worthy enough to be at this school, and I think that's where it impacts my well-being is that self-doubt that, you know, I mean, almost that critique on myself constantly, but yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
And then that lends itself into why I always say yes for everything, and then I get even more stressed because I have to yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's not easy. That's for sure. Definitely not easy to say no. But I
Mm,
get it too, right? It's, moving up into a new division of the school. Like, I totally get why you feel that way. So
mm.
I know that you're a reader. That's why I brought you
Yes.
on here. Like, not only are you an amazing educator, so committed to your job, passionate, but I know that you're also passionate about reading. Um, are you someone who likes to display your books on a bookshelf, or do you have a virtual library? Like, what kind? I mean, do you have audiobooks and ebooks? Like, tell me a little bit about. Yeah, do you have a bookshelf?
Yeah. Well, okay. So at home in the States, my room is just covered in books.
Mm,
I like hard copy,
right.
but when I moved here, I left it all. So now I only have like a couple books,
Yeah,
and now I'm transitioning to more just ebooks, so I can just read it on my phone. But I'm still, yeah, I think I still prefer hard copies. Like I don't know why. Something about the feel of it just gets me. I'm still, you recommended to me audiobooks. I'm still getting into that too, but I would say most of my library, it's right now it's just one little meager shelf in our
yeah, yeah.
in our room, which it makes me feel like this isn't these are like not even a lot of the books that I really like.
It's funny, yeah, because like, I have like my bookstagram account, and I mean, a lot of people that I follow, man, I'm just like, they spend hours on end just rearranging and the
Mm,
beautiful displays on their bookshelf. But man, I'm not.
yeah.
Maybe I'll take a photo and show you my current bookshelf. You're gonna laugh your head off. I'll show you on Monday, but
Send it to
it's
me.
just
Send it to
like
me.
I just don't like. I don't have time to do that, and also I don't think I have it in me to make it as beautiful. I mean, I follow these pages where like people are always updating. Oh, this look, I've rearranged
Yeah.
my, and it's color coded, so pretty, so
Yes.
beautiful. But I'm like, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to
I
do that. I
used
just want
yeah.
to read, man. Come on.
I hear you. I hear you. So my old bookshelf, I had two ways I organized it. It was by genre I had, and then I had like these little I cut out like those like files that had the little tabs? Like I cut that to book size so I could have like so I'd
I'm
have
just
like
not
the little
surprised.
genres.
I'm not
I
surprised. This
know,
is
I
you.
know.
This is
And
you
then
talking about.
and then I didn't like that, so I trashed it, and I had like all my pink books, all
Oh
of my
my,
blue books, all,
I
and
love
now
it.
now it's just yeah, now it's just this. I think actually my parents moved all my books, so it's all mixed in with their books. So it's
Right,
like
yeah.
I gave up on it. Yeah.
Oh man, I love it. So, have you ever read a book that has made you cry?
Yes. I mean, I would say, I
Like, are
texted
you
you
a crier?
yesterday.
Yeah, you did text me
I am
yesterday.
I am absolutely a crier, even if it's just like I don't know if it's a fantasy book where it's like everything worked out in the end. I'm still like, yes, it worked out. I think I cry probably every book. Like except for, nonfiction, but like
Yeah,
I will say pretty much most of that, and that's why, like, for me, I have to savor the endings
yeah.
because I have to be like in the right setting. Like I can't be on the train. I can't be because I just like just start. Like one time, I was trying to read this book on the airplane, and I just could not stop crying. That the flight attendant, she thought something was wrong, and she's like, "Hey, are you okay?" I'm like, I just this book is just so good.
Okay, you win. You
Yeah,
win. I was like, I've had a bit of a cry, but I'm like, nah, sis, you win.
I don't know. It's just like I just can't hold it back. Like they just pour. Like I don't know what it is.
um, so here's what's your favorite drink, snack, or beverage to have beside you while you're reading? I mean, are you one of those people that needs, or are you just kind of
Yes.
like, I'm just gonna read?
I need my situation. I need a little
You need
definitely.
your favorite drink, huh?
So so there's okay, there's three drinks of choices. Okay. The first one, if it's an evening read, then I'll have either my glass of wine or a classic gin and tonic. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's my go-to. But if it's like a middle of the day, comfortable, I'm gonna be up in the couch, then I have to have my milk tea with boba, tapioca milk tea kind of thing. So that's that's me. maybe that's very Californian of me because like they're kind of like in California you can get like the boba milk tea for
Right,
like
right.
a couple bucks,
Yo,
and here it's like you order it, it's like 800 yen,
I
like
know,
800
man.
bucks. Yeah, you're like, what is this? Like, and it's like not even that great tea. So maybe that should be my next project, perfecting some milk tea.
Share, share.
What about you? What do you have to have something, or do you need your setup when you're reading?
Nah, I definitely don't have a situation like you. I'm like, sorry, sis, but I definitely don't. I mean, I'm not like I might just have my water bottle, but I'm not really someone who needs. I just when I read, I can't have any distractions like down to a drink.
Mm,
Water's all good, but I'm just like fully like I
you're
just
so
read.
into the book.
Yeah,
That's
I'm so
awesome.
invested in
That's
the
awesome.
page. Um, but now after listening to your situation, I'm like, yo, do I need to get on that buzz? Maybe.
Yeah, telling you, sometimes it's like that's what brings some peace and quiet. Finding a nice the blanket too. If you have a
Ah,
blanket, you're just all snuggled up. Yeah,
thank
I'm one of those.
you.
Yeah.
So this is a question I was actually thinking about because I didn't even know when I did this, and this is outside of school. But when did you last
Mm.
visit a library? Not including school, because everyone knows we always hang out in the library.
Oh, yeah. That's our hey.
I
Oh,
mean,
good
working,
question.
working.
Where? Yes, working. Yeah, yeah. The last library I visited was in university. There's
Jesus.
a huge, yeah, so I don't think I've been to a library here in Japan, actually. I don't,
Yeah, I haven't.
and
I
I think
want
there's
to.
actually, I think, yeah, I think there's actually one just down the street too. I should go check that out. Um, yeah, the last one was in university, I think.
Mm,
And I think that was the last time I went in, other than, our school one. Yeah, man, that's a great question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that there's public libraries here, but with the COVID situation, I'm like, yeah, nah.
No, that's, yeah.
I don't know way.
And
Have
you
you ever
don't
had
know
a
who's.
what? Go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
You
I was just gonna say, you don't know where that book has been.
Jesus,
What?
Erica.
What?
But I hear you. I hear you. Um, I think that's why a lot of people just hang out in the bookshops. For those who don't know, man,
Yeah.
Japan, the bookshops here are so dope. They are so fire. Like
Yeah.
the fire emoji times 100. Like the bookshops here, like man, there's yummy food in there. Lots of so many
Yeah.
different books. so many different cool places, little like nooks that you can go hang out, sit there, and just
Mhm.
enjoy a book, man. They're a little bit expensive, but who needs to go and buy a book at a bookstore?
They
You can
are.
just go hang out there and read, right? Like,
Well, that's what sometimes I see, like, people I feel like they just read an entire book and they just put it back on the shelf. Like, I'm like, "Weren't you here when I was, like, came in here, like, this morning?" Yeah.
I would be one of those people, man. Like, there's some amazing books I've seen, but I am not paying like 30, 40 bucks for a
Yeah.
book. I would be one of those
They're
people
so
for real.
expensive. Yeah,
Uh
yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like, I mean, I think the only books that I feel guilty standing and reading are like recipe books, like cooking books and stuff. I feel because those ones, it's like the only way I'm gonna take it with me if I snap a shot
I
of
was
it.
going
I'm
to
like, that's
say,
bad. So, yeah.
I was going to say, don't lie, Miss Erica. Are you actually standing
No,
there browsing and snapping photos? I bet you are,
no,
right?
no. I buy it. I buy it.
Okay, now I know you've brought some you have some recommendations, but I do have two more
Yeah,
questions. Uh
yeah.
have you ever had a crush on a book character? Since you
Oh,
get
great.
quite emotional and like
Okay. This is such a good question. Oh, okay. I think such a good. Okay, probably the most fanatic. This is gonna be so embarrassing. Okay, the I feel like as okay. Preface. As I've grown older and as I've matured, I feel that I've grown. There's a boundary where I don't feel so attached.
mhm.
But the height of like my fandom was when I was a teenager, when I was in middle school, and yes, I went through the Twilight phase. Okay,
Roses.
I know you're gonna
I'm
judge
not
me so
judging
much.
you. I'm not judging you at all.
Yeah,
We'll let
yeah.
the viewers judge you.
I know they're gonna judge me so much, and I was a Team Edward kind of person. I
Oh.
don't like it was the craze, and I don't know. I think because of like all the hormones going on and
Mhm.
everybody around me, like I'll admit I was very into it. Like I, that's embarrassing. Let's edit that. No, just kidding. I feel now it's more of I feel a connection to the characters where it's more like an endearing or kind of
Mm,
a like a I don't feel like that kind of same huge crush kind of feelings. I mean,
yeah.
I think I even had like a Twilight poster. Gosh,
Up
ew.
at the top of your bed.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, what was wrong with me? I think, and then after the movies came out, it just crushed it, and I was like, no, I think I don't care about these characters anymore. Those I actually have the hard copies of that series at home, and it's like the one series that I'm like ashamed that I kind of want to like slip it to the giveaway pile of like and it's funny that you mentioned that because this year, um, after we came back from the summer, they had to kind of share what's a book that they read over summer that they wanted to share with the class, and I swear, like three kids were choosing one of those books. I was like, oh, okay,
Dude,
yeah,
I'm like,
like
tell me, point out the person to me right now who is recommending these books to you. Tell me right now.
yeah.
Like,
And one of the girls, she was like, "Oh, I really love this," and I kind of steered her into like a dystopian kind of route instead. She's like, "Oh, these are so much better." Yeah, I thought so.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's a book that one book that you have read over and over again, like that one book that you know you can just go back to all the time? Do you have one
The
or?
one book I I do. It's yeah, it's Edith Hamilton's Mythology. So again,
Mm,
I love mythology, and that was sort of the book that inspired me to learn about other countries. Like
mm,
I because I felt that growing up, it was a very one narrative about like, oh, this is where our Western philosophy comes from. These are where, these are the great Greek myths, or
Yeah.
and and then when I after I read it over and over, then it started to make me feel of like, oh, well, this sounds very similar to what I heard in like from what I knew from my grandparents telling me about Japanese mythology. So it sort of was like almost like my comparison book. So
Mhm.
I'd use that book and then compare it with like a myth from another country, or like I'd go back and like I feel like that was what first piqued my interest, and then then it went into Egyptian mythology, and then I went into like Sumerian, and then Japanese, and then wanting to learn like Incan, so like I feel like it was sort of the stepping stone that kind of, and I'd say that's the one book that like I just always keep with me like in my library. Like even now I recently bought like there's like a I think 50th anniversary or 75th or
Mm.
something, like an anniversary one, has like really cool illustrations, so I feel like that's the one that I yeah keep coming back to for some reason. And I don't know, maybe it's I'm drawn to storytelling, I don't know. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Mm.
you have some book recommendations or a book you've brought a book or some
Yeah,
books that you
okay.
want to recommend?
Absolutely. So I had thought about recommending two books, but I'm actually gonna just focus on one because I feel that this is one that I really want to talk about. And today I wanted to share about a Japanese author, a Japanese female author, and a contemporary author. And so the book that I want to share is called The Housekeeper and the Professor. Let me pull up my notes here. Yeah, The Housekeeper and the Professor. And I think maybe have you read that one before
I
by
have.
Ogawa Yoko? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And I first read this book. I think the Japanese version, the Japanese version is called Hakase no Aishita Tsushiki, I think, which actually literally translates to um the equation, the professor's beloved equation, or something like that. So it's
That
actually a
sounds
little
so
bit
much
different.
better.
I
You know,
know,
the
right? And,
Japanese
and,
version,
and then
right?
and then when you hear that, you're like, ah, okay. Because then in the story, when you
Yeah.
see the equation, you're like, ah, okay, okay.
Wow, now it makes
But
sense.
so the original, the Japanese version, I think came out in 2003, and they didn't actually translate it until 2009.
Wow.
So in English, and I love this book because of several reasons. Like it's it's a peaceful book. It's when you're reading it, it's quite calm. You kind of it's from the perspective of one of the characters, so it's almost like there's this clarity to this. It's very realistic, sort of this peaceful kind of slice of life kind of approach.
It's
And
just
yeah, so the book, it centers around kind of three main characters. There's a professor. He's a mathematics professor, but he can only remember 80 minutes at a time. And then there's a housekeeper that's kind of dispatched to take care of him. And then the housekeeper's son, who is nicknamed Brute because like a square root because his head's flat.
yes.
So it's like, so this book, for me, I I just find this, it's touching. It's for me, it's a little bit nostalgic. It's a beautiful story that shows the relationships. I feel like that's the key kind of idea, is about relationships, and people longing to understand the world around them. People in the professor, this book, it has a lot of reference to math, and also baseball as well. But like I feel that even if you're not really interested in either, like you can still, you kind of grow to kind of develop that same mindset as the characters. Like even I felt like after reading it, I'm like, oh, now I'm starting to notice things around me. So which I guess that's every book, but yeah. But yeah, I feel like this book is one that if readers are interested in learning about more contemporary Japanese female authors, this she's a really big name right now. She has several works. Ogawa Yoko, or sorry, in English, Yoko Ogawa. She she has several works that have been translated into English. A lot of her stories revolve around memory and like the concepts with that. In addition, I think a lot of the times when you look at translations, translated works, sometimes when they're in English, it kind of loses the beauty of the language in its original language, you know? So, but I feel like this one, it still has this tone in the language that it's clear. It's not, like a Dickens kind of confounded paragraph long sentences, but there's kind of but it's still complex and the words that are used, it's very like specific word choices. Um like I felt that it does the service. It yeah, in English it still kind of gets a lot of the nuances and yeah, I have too many notes here. I should have
You're
like
fine.
highlighted some things. Um Yeah, but I just yeah, so the language, it almost feels like it's like a diary-esque kind of feel. I don't know if you felt that way too when you're reading, where it's sort of you can either, pick it up and just read through it, like you don't want to set it down, or there's also kind of this way of like even if you do kind of read a little bit, put it down, and if you pick it back up, it's very easy to kind of jump right back in because we know the characters, we kind of know the situation.
Mm.
And so it's kind of one of those where it's like I feel like it's a very calming, heartwarming kind of read. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
I read that. I think I told you, like, I read Banana Yoshimoto, right? Is it Banana
Mm.
Yoshimoto? I read
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I
The
mean,
kitchen, is that the one?
no, the other one, the one that said Shimokitazawa. It's set around
Oh,
here.
yes. Yes.
What's that?
Yes,
It's like
yes, yes, yeah.
Moshi Moshi,
I
Moshi
think
Moshi,
it's
でしょ?
yeah,
Moshi
Moshi
Moshi.
Moshi. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
so
one. Yeah.
I read that, and I'm not even gonna lie, like, I just try to persevere because it took me, like, 6, 7 months just to get through it. And, it's what
Mm,
you were
mm,
saying about the translation, like, I just man, it was a struggle. It was a struggle, like,
mm.
I felt so disconnected, but I the reason why I just try to finish it is because I wanted to get to the end, like, but when I
Yeah,
read,
yeah,
Yoko Ogawa, I
yeah.
read it straight through, and yeah, it was just something so different from that Banana Yoshimoto, and I know she's got some
Mm,
amazing works out too, and people love her. When I read Banana Yoshimoto's reviews, I mean, people were just raving about it, but I
yeah.
struggled so much, and I think it made me wish that my Japanese was, like, so good that I could just read the Japanese versions. Like, when I mean, I got through, Yoko Ogawa, but I was also
Mm,
kinda like, "Man, I wish I could read the Japanese versions," right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, did you read the Japanese version, or you
I attempted. My mom did. My mom did, and she really loved it.
Mhm.
She said, it's just that sensitivity, and I guess like a lot. Sorry, I'm fidgeting with my
You're
sound here. There you go. Yeah, my mom really loved the original, and I feel like there's a like I don't know, it's just this sensitivity, this kind of gentleness to it that kind of pulls you in, that makes you want to read a bit more. So yeah, I attempted to read the Japanese, but I'm just not that good with my kanji. So
No,
I
I
do, and
know. If
especially
I
when
could
it
write
comes
it all
like
in hiragana, I think would be
I know, right? I know. Then we'd be good. Oh
I
man.
think we'd be good.
But yeah, I wanted to mention like this one. Um, yeah, I thought that some takeaways from this story that I thought a lot of people might pick on. It's the idea, what does it mean to care for someone? You know, and how that there's seemingly imaginary forces that somehow pull people together, and how together you can overcome like a lot of the truths that you face in your own life. So I feel like it's just a very soft kind of approach to that, and it just yeah, and then for me too, It was just nostalgic because when I, hearing the scenes and I think of, my family, my childhood, my grandfather was kind of a professor character of like, my grandfather is a little bit more stoic and didn't really have a great relationship with his family and but then when he was with me and my brother, he was just a different person. And like in part of this story, you see this just beautiful friendship between the professor and the housekeeper's son. And it's just, yeah, like I just, and you hear, they have shared interests, and it reminded me of like watching boxing with my grandfather and like just like a lot of those scenes just, it reminded me how we can judge people. Like my grandfather on the outside, and to other people, he seemed like this kind of one-minded kind of person, but he was really just this warm and gentle, loving kind of grandfather. And the other piece too, like it touches on loss of memory and the impact that can have on people around you. And yeah, and that just it definitely reminded me of my grandparents too. So yeah, um, that was a lot. Probably,
No,
I don't want to give like too much about the plot, but just
no, no, that's
it's just
fine. I mean,
definitely, yeah, yeah.
definitely a must read. Like that was, I
Mhm.
feel you. I hear a great review and recommendation. It is a must read, people, folks listening,
Mhm.
watching. It is
Yeah,
such a good book. It's so different, and I'm
it is.
definitely trying to read more like Japanese writers. I'm reading Mariko Nagae, but she's American Japanese writer.
Oh,
So I'm reading
yeah,
the
yeah.
Freedom, which talks about the internment camps. So like, Pearl Harbor
Yes.
happened, and then so the Japanese
Yeah.
um families and the experiences in the US in World War II. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm trying, I'm trying to read more Japanese writers. Um
Yeah, I think um a lot of the books that I've read for Japanese literature, I feel like a lot of them seem to touch on kind of the man versus himself kind of notion of like
okay,
a lot of them, a lot of in some people compare it to like German literature has similar kind of notes where it's not so much action packed,
right.
but it's sort of like the humanity, the kind of the self doubts, the questioning, the kind of understanding of the world. So yeah, I think if it's definitely a different, very different taste than a lot of the books that I read growing up, but it's interesting. I think it's, yeah, it'll be the comedy. The other book that I was going to recommend is more on the darker, twisted side, but yeah, I'll talk about that one another time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
next time, chapter 2, part
yeah,
2, of
yeah,
Miss Erica. So, I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
that brings us to, just, like, wrapping this up. I'm
yeah.
so, so happy that you were able to make it here today. I mean, not here, but, online. I'm
No,
super
yeah,
stoked that you came to share. We're just chopping it up. For those who are watching or listening, this is how we roll. This is how we are
yeah.
at work. We're just like, we have our laughs, and then we have our serious convos. And I appreciate you, sis. Like seriously, you're just different. You're
Mm,
such a hardworking teacher. And just some encouragement for you is just keep going. Look after yourself. Like we're in this for the long run, and just be the best you. Look after yourself, because your students, they
mm,
need you, we need you, and we're of no help to anyone if we're like not looking after ourselves. So just keep on the grind. Yeah, just
thank you. Yeah, and like I feel very humbled to be asked to be a part of this because I know you've got some great people lined up. So for me, like it means a lot, and I have so much respect for you. You're just to me, it's like you're like the goddess of books. Like every time I'm like, oh, what book? I'm like, what's Rosa? Like to me, it's like, oh, this is so awesome. And you've always been encouraging. From I feel like from day one. I think when we first met And was that like awkward dinner that was like arranged for us? I feel like yeah. But I feel like
Just
I just had
quietly.
this vibe. Yeah, no, but I felt like I just had this vibe from you that was just always been so supportive, and you and I think one thing that especially this year that I just want to thank you, like you've been pushing me to try to to be authentic, to be true to myself, to and like to share and stand up for other people, you know? Like I feel like I'm so grateful to have you in my life and to just be able to just be two tables from, you know, two
Yeah.
desks from you. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you know. So
Prime estate in the
yeah,
teacher's
thank
room,
you.
folks. We're by the window,
I
best
know.
seats in the
Oh,
house. All
it's
the
best
haters,
seats. Yeah.
man. Oh, okay. Well, that's us.
Mm.
It's a wrap. Thank you, sis.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.